today we're just going to talk a little bit about member journeys and trying to get people into strength training normally that kind of wouldn't get there. So we're going to have a little look at your member journeys at the moment and how you've got them structured. Guys, I encourage questions throughout, so please feel free to put your hand up. We'll get a mic over. I'm sure we can do that. I'm asking, but I'm kind of telling, so cheers, Rob, thank you. But let's get cracking. So I've spent about 20 years, like most of you, in health and fitness, holding a number of sort of positions. I spent 10 years lecturing for Premier. Thanks. Ooh. Good service here. Spent 10 years lecturing for Premier Global, designing and writing a lot of their courses, and I joined EGYM about 2 years ago. One of the reasons I got involved with EGYM and started looking at what they're doing is kind of a misconception of where we are and how strength training is viewed. I think that when we, as an industry, start to look at strength training, this is a very common view of how we see things. We've got some real athletes up here. We've got Eddie Hall. Sorry, guys, no worries, it's fine. We've got Eddie Hall, we've got a bit of Arnie, we've got Sarah up there. These are amazing athletes. And I think from the perspective of our members and how a lot of our trainers see it, this is how we see strength too. Okay, and I think a lot of that starts with the education that I used to deliver. So I know what we're taught as at level 2 and level 3. And we're still basing things off this, which is our resistance strength training pyramid. We start with this baseline of endurance training, so we go light but high rep. We then kick it on a little bit and we go into some hypertrophy work where we get a bit heavier and a little bit slower, and then we go into some strength training. But it's always with that defined bodybuilding goal and that bodybuilding mindset. Now, for those of you that have those bodybuilding type gyms, that's cracking, it's great, that's how we almost should be viewing it. But for the most of us that don't or are trying to attract new demographics and new profiles, maybe we need to consider this. This may be a more relative term for strength. This is where we are dealing with. This is who we're dealing with. And for those of you, or most of us, if you're lucky enough to have parents that are alive, etc., we don't want to see this later in life. We want to see people actually active and being able to take care of themselves and look after themselves. When we program, when we plan member journeys and sort of the direction we want to take our membership base in, I don't know if we cover this side of things enough. I don't know if we think about this enough. All right? We need to kind of assume that a member, they have a general idea of where they want to go, but not necessarily a pathway to get there. That's our job. That's what we do. It's our job to put them on that right path, to make sure that they get to and are successful in their life and their environment. And that doesn't mean lifting weights above their head. That doesn't mean snatching, cleaning, and power squat or whatever. You know, we need to balance what is training and what is essentially manslaughter, if we're honest. It's a fine line between the two. When we start to sort of dig deeper into this, are we actually giving our members the tools that they need to progress appropriately? And normally when we do this, we sort of get you to write down and think about your member journeys. But for the most part, we all have the same member journey in place. And I'm talking about when members have joined, when they've actually signed up and they're part of your gym, they've already joined, they've signed their membership forms, what happens next? Where do they go? Do they have their induction? Hopefully. Do they turn up? Maybe. If they don't, what happens? Do we know? Are they tracked? Do they just blend into the world of sort of our gym and get forgotten about? And it's these guys, and you know, Guy talks about this a lot, and I'm sure it will come up later as well, in terms of retention. That's a huge thing for us. We want to make sure that these are members not for 6 weeks, but for 12 months and beyond. But if we're not setting the right pattern and the right path for them, will they still be there? And bigger question, would we even know? One of the reasons, or some of the reasons, that we don't progress into strength training, and look guys, you've all got different models, different mindsets, and different ways of doing this, but strength training is scary, right? It's confusing, it's hard work. I mean, listen to the name, it doesn't sound nice, it doesn't sound simple, it sounds pretty tough going. How do we overcome these barriers? What pathways do we put in place? Do we have any at the moment? Because if we get beyond the induction, what do? Check in 6 weeks' time? Maybe. reprogram, possibly. What happens in the meantime? Do they end up getting past the bike? Now, for a couple of minutes, I just want you to think about your current, and I don't need you to shout these out, but I just want you to think about your current membership journey, your member journey. Where does it start? Where does it finish? And bigger question, where do you want them to get to? How far do you want them to go? Do you want them in PT sessions? Do you want them in classes? Do you want them in boot camps? Whatever it is you're doing, how do you make sure that they end up there? And it's a very individual answer, and probably one I can't answer for you right now, but we can definitely try. But unless we take a step back and maybe redesign that member journey, we're always going to end up in the same place. All right? I think this is one of the most devastating things to hear. How many of you guys have heard that? Show of hands. How many times have you heard that the gym doesn't work? Of course it works. It's a room full of fitness equipment. It should work. And if it's not working, why? Do we ask that question enough? Do we answer that question? Do we have the answers for it? I think that's a really important thing for us to look at. And today, it's not, obviously, yes, I work for EGYM. It's not a sales pitch about what we do or how we work. I just want you to take a step back and think about, can I improve my member journey? Okay? Now, we talk about a sat-nav. We talk about, I say to you, I want you to, we've just taken Jordan on Jordan's work, used to work up in Blackpool. I want you guys to meet me at Blackpool Leisure Centre. Okay? You've got a goal. You've got an ambition. I've told you what we need to do. But I'm not going to let you have a map or a sat-nav to get there. Are you going to see me there? Are you going to make it? This is essentially what we're asking our members to do when they join our facility. They have a general appreciation of where they want to be or where they want to go. Right? They know that they want maybe weight loss, maybe fat loss, maybe shape or tone, however generic and sort of non-specific that is. But they don't actually have the tools or the pathway to get there. That's our job to put it in place. Okay? Any questions so far? Are we all happy? Good. When we start getting into the basis of this, and the population and demographic I've looked at is that older range. When we look around the gym, and if you ever get the opportunity to just take a sit down for 5-10 minutes in your facilities, I know that's probably not very often that happens, just people watch, and watch the groups that just disappear into the background. What age range do you think there will be? What gender do you think they'll be? Typically, 40 plus, maybe 50 plus. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, female. Just blend in. Do they ever get past the bike? Do they ever make it past that 15 minutes of cardio that's supposed to cure all of their ills and fixes? How do we get people beyond that? How do we stop them just going in and pressing quick start? Our favorite button, right? Good. The stats are here. I won't go too deep into these, but they're there for you to see, and I'm happy to share this with anyone that wants it at the end. But by 2026, 21% of our population will be living with health conditions. Now, that's us, that's our parents, that's our grandparents. Essentially, that's in the future our kids. It's not kind of good enough for the structure that we have and the facilities that we have available and the job that we're doing. That's a lot of people with a lot of health issues. Some of those conditions that we can see, inflammatory, big issues, musculoskeletal pain, osteoporosis, bone fragility. These are all things that we can have a direct impact with if we get it right. Unfortunately, a lot of us I think will agree, we're not quite getting it right yet. We're missing out on these demographics. All right? Sarcopenia is a big thing that we've looked into. We've looked at the distinct lack of muscle use that we're getting, challenging our everyday environments, moving beyond what we're capable of. We always use as an example, you see a big lad working on a building site. Over a day, how much weight do they shift? They should be absolutely jacked, right? They should be huge, but they're not. Why? Because yes, they're active, yes, they're exercising, but it's an everyday occurrence. It's not actually going above and beyond what they do and how it works. Sarcopenia is a big thing, guys. If we don't use it, we lose it. We taught you that at level 2. I remember. I'm hoping some of you guys do too. Scale of the problem is absolutely huge. We have got lots going on here. We are one of the, unfortunately, fattest nations in Europe, but with more access than most. Maybe less structured, but we've definitely got the access, we've definitely got the ability to do it. Females especially have a higher percentage of musculoskeletal conditions than males. But when we look at the areas and we go back to the barriers that we're talking about in terms of getting into strength training and some of the things that are actually going to deal with these issues, how accessible are these areas for people? For everyone? Do we feel comfortable going in there? Do we feel comfortable going into the weights area on a Monday night, International Chest Day, and shifting weight with everyone else? Would it put us off? And if we have those little barriers, if that's going to stop us going into it, then what's that going to do to our 40, 50, 60-year-old who's only recent, not even recent, their last experience of physical activity was probably at school? How do we change that? And I think it comes down to, as we sort of touched on earlier, is when we put a member journey in place, we don't actually bespoke it. We don't change it, we just leave it as it was. Okay, we do the same thing for different people day in, day out. If you're a physio and you're treating 2 patients with the same injury, we don't treat it in the same way. We treat it in a different way. Yet when it comes to gym membership, we still follow that path and that pattern. Induction, reprogram, cheers. Can we change it? Can we adapt it? Can we make it bespoke? Can we put a 3, 4, 5, 6 point? And I know the biggest issue will come back to staffing levels, right? How do we do this? How do we make this work? How do we put a 6-point induction process or contact point in for our members without taking on more staff? Guys, we've all just gone mega digital, right? Everyone's gone on this digital trip because we've had to. Are we utilizing the digital tools we have available to do this? Can we bespoke this in a way to say that this person is very low on confidence, very low on self-esteem? Can we progress them and give them maybe 4 points of contact, 5 points of contact, 6 points of contact, which is more than the 21-year-old who is comfortable and confident to shift weight? Some of the percentage shifts that we've seen by introducing older demographics to strength training. This is a 3-month period, and this is taken from our machines, this is our data. As you can see that in this sort of 61 to 70-year-old, we have seen in excess of 25% strength increases inside 3 months. We can still do it. Age doesn't have to be the overriding factor. Age doesn't have to be an issue. But if they never reach this point, we're never going to see these results. It's easy for us to track this data because it feeds straight through from our machines. Maybe a little more difficult to prove inside your facilities, but we can do it. Giving people simple, easy feedback to work with, to understand. Quick show of hands. If I asked you guys to calculate someone's VO2 max, would you know how to do it? How many people could actually do it? Hands up. Couple? 10? Do members know what VO2 max means? Do they understand what it actually does? How we could use it? What about their 1-rep max scores? Have we got time to test and challenge and put them through these properly? Is it safe for a lot of people? Probably not. So when we look at giving them data scores, we use what we call our BioAge. And for some of you, we've got some customers in here who use our software anyway. BioAge is a really simple thing. It's a really simple concept. We give you an age based on your strength, your cardio, your metabolic, and your flexibility sort of abilities. And that age gives you a score to work with. If you're 40 and your BioAge is 62, we need to talk. We need to do some work. If you're 40 and your BioAge is 21, we're in a good place. We're doing okay. But it's making it relevant for the person in front of us. It's making it actually accessible for the person to take something home and progress and adapt. When we revamp our gyms, when we change things, when we move things around, do we take a step back and think, what can I do to attract someone different, someone new, rather than replacing what we have like for like to give more to the people that already come in? How many of you gone through a gym refurb in the last 24 months? Did we do anything different? Did we change it, or did we replace like for like? And I'll get some feedback on this at the end of this, but did we see a shift in membership on the basis of what we did? Did we actually gain new members by putting the same kit in, or did we just keep the members that we had? We see it a lot in leisure facilities, and I was speaking at break, that to prevent people going to CrossFit, and we can talk about these because they're not here today, local authorities will put a rig in. They'll put a functional zone in to try and keep 15 people from leaving and go into a CrossFit box. Guys, if they're going to go to a CrossFit box, they're going to go to a CrossFit box. There's a lot more there. It's a whole community thing there. It's not just a little bit dumped inside a gym. So I'll ask you the question, just when it comes to revamping, when it comes to doing something, just think about how we can attract different people, different demographics. How can we get into these and get people who wouldn't actually typically lift into actual strength training? It will get us eventually, all of us. I had a lecture once who said that biology and chemistry don't kill you, it's physics. Once you can't overcome this, that's our problem, that's our biggest issue. How do we prevent this? How do we stop this kicking in later life? Okay? It's probably quite quick. Apologies. We've got questions now, and I know I've got some already.
Any questions in the room?
John's desperate to stitch me up. He already said I would.
No question? No. You're an expert then.
Okay, so we were having a chat earlier and about member journey and bringing in other collaboration and health work, so going back to almost like the wellness provision. How do you get that member on the right journey? They can tell you their goals, but how do you systemize that so that everyone has the same experience?
Okay, so I think that when we look at a member journey for an individual, we have to understand it is individual, not general. And I think that's one of the first places to start, is that we have to go specific. And when you've got a lot of different people sort of contributing to it, they need to buy into this too. They need to understand that it's the journey that member's on is sort of really important for your business and for their business too. When you put the journey in place, we need to understand that this member may need more than one sort of tick box exercise. So we may need to have that initial consultation. And you say that members generally know their goals. Honestly, guys, have you spoken to many members that actually know their goals? Or is it us that has to put them to the member itself? Do we actually have to formulate them into something that the member can work with? So it's our job to then make sure that they're on the right path and to actually signpost them to the right people so they're in the right place. So rather than just saying, right, you're going to spend 6 weeks with me because I'm going to make some more money out of you from a PT perspective, I want you as a PT client in 6 months' time also. So how do we get you to that point? And using a sort of a personalized checklist, so an individual template set up for someone is probably the best way to do that. I think the grunt work starts early, so the work you actually have to do starts in the early stages of this. Once you've got the template set, it's easy to adapt these templates to suit individuals rather than just having a one-size-fits-all approach. Is that right? Cool. Any more? Cheers.
Hi. I've seen a site with your kit in it, and I've seen the trainer walking around with a tablet.
Yeah.
Is that software that sits behind your machines, and can you tell me a little bit about what that does and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So the sort of EGYM it's a fully connected solution. So all data from our resistance machines and our connected cardio partners draw through. We also draw data through from Apple, from Garmin, etc. So that puts that in the trainer's hands. All of the information internal, so inside the gym and outside the gym will track through also. So in terms of the app and the tablet that they're using, that's how they would onboard someone. They would actually use that to set the member up, to sort of put their journey in place, to set the equipment up, but also to program with as well. So it has sort of programming capability behind that. And what's important with the software is it's not just focused around our kit and our machines. Whatever they're doing outside the gym will be there for the trainer to recognize as well. So what we're trying to do is encourage better conversations, more personal conversations, rather than nice weather or whatever it is we try and start a conversation with. We can actually give praise and feedback on, we can see what you did outside. We can see that you've been on a 5K run or walk or hike or whatever, and we've got that data there in front of us. So that's essentially what the guys are using around the gym and the facility. We can show you that as well if you want to come and have a look at it. Absolutely fine. Good. Any more questions, guys?
We've got about half an hour to fill, so if you can ask more questions, that'd be great.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks, mate.
I think I raced ahead as well. So.
Yeah, you did. Good. Guys, outside today, if you want to have a little look, some of you have been out already, we really need to think of a better strap line for this, but come and get in our van. It's a bit creepy, but yeah, we've actually we've kitted a van out. It's got our equipment on. It's got our solution on there. It's got our connected cardio in there as well. So come and have a little look, see what we can do. Yeah, I know, John. All right. That's taking it a bit far, but yeah, we do have suites in there too. Yeah, coming out, have a little look. We're happy to show you on there. We've got the two boys, Jordan and Lewis. We'll take you through that. I guess thanks for your time. Sorry, it was shorter than it should have been. Cheers, mate.